I still remember the cold morning, when the trial bell rang across the academy grounds. My hearts were pounding, and my scales felt tight against my body. Today was the day we would face the great beast. Every cadet on this station knew its name, even if we were forbidden to speak it during trials. We simply called it the Warden. It had lived longer than any of our recorded histories. Some said it was older than the academy itself, older than the alliance of species that built these training halls. It had tested cadets for over 300 years, and in all that time, it had never once bowed to anyone. I lined up with the rest of my class outside the great iron gates. My friend Saren stood beside me, her tail flicking with nervous energy. On my other side was Drom, a heavy-set cadet from a warrior world, his arms crossed and his jaw set with false confidence. Behind us stood dozens more, cadets from a dozen different worlds, all of us waiting to be tested by something none of us truly understood. The instructors never explained exactly what the trial required. They only said the Warden would know if you were ready. It would know if you belonged among the stars as a protector rather than a danger. Those who failed were sent home. Those who succeeded became full officers, trusted with real responsibility. No one had ever failed by dying, but many had failed by running, by freezing, or by the Warden simply turning its back and refusing to look at them again. The gates opened with a groan of ancient metal, and cold air rushed out to meet us. Beyond them was a wide circular arena made of stone, open to the sky above. In the center of that arena sat the Warden. I had seen images before, but nothing prepared me for seeing it in person. It was massive, built like something between a great cat and an armored serpent, with plates of dark bone running down its spine. Its eyes were a deep amber color, and when it turned them toward us, I felt something ancient and knowing pass through the crowd. It did not move, it only watched. The first cadet called forward was from a species known for their strength and their pride. He walked into the arena with his chest puffed out, showing his teeth in what his culture considered a sign of readiness. He raised his arms and let out a loud roar, meant to prove he was not afraid. The Warden did not react. It simply watched him with those still amber eyes until he faltered, lowered his arms, and walked back to the gate in silence. He had not been harmed. He had simply been dismissed. The look on his face told us all we needed to know. He had failed. The second cadet tried a different approach. She came from a species that valued submission as a sign of respect. She dropped to her knees the moment she entered the arena, pressing her forehead to the stone floor and remaining perfectly still. Long minutes passed. The Warden approached her slowly, sniffed the air near her, and then turned away, walking back to the center of the arena without acknowledging her further. She, too, returned to us in silence, her failure written across her lowered eyes. One after another, my classmates entered that arena. Some tried to show dominance, others tried to show fear and hoped that fear would be respected. A few tried clever tricks, offering small gifts or performing calming rituals from their home cultures. Nothing worked. The Warden remained unmoved, ancient and unreadable, judging each of them by some standard none of us could guess. Drom went before me. He walked in with his weapon holstered, but his posture rigid, trying to appear calm while every muscle in his body was tense with effort. He stood his ground when the Warden approached him, not backing away, not advancing. For a moment, I thought perhaps he had found the answer. The Warden circled him twice, studying him closely. Then it let out a low sound, almost like a sigh, and moved away. Drom's shoulders sank as he returned to the line. Saren went next, and I could see her hands shaking as she stepped through the gate. She tried something gentle, speaking in a soft voice, offering calm words the way her people did when greeting elders. The Warden tilted its great head, seeming almost curious for a moment, but then it too turned away, and Saren came back to us with tears in her eyes that she quickly wiped away. By the time it was my turn, half our class had already failed. I walked through the gate with no plan at all. I did not know what to do differently. I only knew that everything we had tried so far, strength, submission, cleverness, gentleness, none of it had been enough. The arena felt larger once I was standing inside it alone. The Warden's eyes found mine immediately, and for a long moment, neither of us moved. I could hear my own hearts beating in my ears. I thought about running. I thought about copying what Drom had done, standing firm and still. Instead, I simply stood there, unsure, honest in my uncertainty, and said nothing at all. The warden approached slowly, its massive paws silent against the stone. It stopped only a few feet from me, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from its body. It studied me for a long time. Then, just like the others, it turned and walked away. I returned to the line feeling nothing but emptiness. I had expected to fail, but somehow it still hurt to watch the warden's back as it walked from me. We thought the trials were finished after that. Every cadet in our group had entered the arena, and every cadet had failed. The instructors exchanged quiet, troubled looks. In 300 years, there had never been a class where every single cadet failed the trial. Something felt wrong, though none of us could say what. Then a voice called out from the far side of the gathering, a quiet voice that did not seem to belong to any of us. We turned to see a human cadet stepping forward. His name was Elias, a quiet young man who rarely spoke during our lessons. He had transferred late into our class, and most of us barely knew him. He raised a hand and asked if he might also attempt the trial, even though he was not officially on the list for today. The instructors hesitated. Humans were still new to this academy, having only joined the Alliance a few generations ago. Many of the older instructors did not fully trust them yet, though none could point to a clear reason why. After a long pause, the head instructor nodded and allowed Elias to enter the arena. Elias did not walk in with pride like the first cadet. He did not fall to his knees like the second. He did not carry any special plan or trick that any of us could see. He simply walked forward at a steady pace, his hands relaxed at his sides, his face calm. The warden lifted its head the moment Elias entered, and something in its posture changed. It rose fully onto its four legs, something it had not done for any of us. A murmur went through the watching crowd. Elias stopped in the middle of the arena and simply stood there, looking at the great beast without fear, but also without challenge. The warden approached him slowly, the way it had approached each of us, but this time it did not circle. It walked directly up to Elias and lowered its massive head until its eyes were level with his. Elias did not step back. He did not raise his hands. He simply reached out, slowly, and rested his palm gently on the side of the warden's face, near an old, faded scar that ran along its jaw. I do not know how he knew about that scar. None of us had noticed it before, hidden as it was beneath the dark plating. But Elias touched it with such care, as though he understood something about the years and the battles that had shaped this creature, long before any of us were born. The warden went very still. For a moment, the entire arena seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, deliberately, the great beast lowered itself down until its front legs bent, and its head touched the stone floor before the human cadet. It was bowing. None of us moved. None of us breathed. In 300 years, the warden had never bowed to anyone. It had tested generals and warriors, diplomats and scholars, the proudest and the humblest of every species in the Alliance, and it had never once lowered itself like this. The instructors rushed forward, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. Elias simply knelt down beside the warden, still keeping his hand gently against its scarred face, speaking words too quiet for the rest of us to hear. Later that evening, after the ceremony had ended, and the excitement had settled into quiet conversation, I found Elias sitting alone near the edge of the training grounds. I asked him, carefully, what he had done differently. What secret had he known that the rest of us had missed? He thought about the question for a long moment before answering. He said he had not tried to pass a test at all. He had not thought about proving his strength or hiding his fear. He had simply looked at the warden and seen a living being who had spent centuries alone, feared by everyone who approached it, judged again and again by strangers who saw it only as an obstacle to overcome. He said he had simply wanted it to know that someone saw it as more than a trial to survive. I did not have an answer for that. None of us had thought to see the warden that way. We had been so focused on proving ourselves worthy that we had never once considered what the creature itself might need. In the days that followed, our class was given a special allowance to retake the trial, and this time, many of us passed. I think something had shifted in how we approached that arena, carrying a piece of what Elias had shown us. I did not walk in trying to prove my strength. I walked in trying to understand. The warden still tests cadets to this day, and its story has spread far beyond our academy. Other species now speak of humans differently than they once did. not as the strongest warriors among the stars, nor as the most powerful or the most feared. They speak of humans as the ones who see what others overlook, who offer kindness where kindness is least expected, and who somehow understand that true strength often looks like gentleness. I think of that day often, of the ancient beast lowering its head before a quiet young man who asked for nothing except to be understood. It taught me something about my own people that no lesson at the academy ever could. Perhaps the greatest test was never about strength or fear at all. Perhaps it was only ever about whether we were willing to truly see one another, and humanity, more than any other species I have known, seemed to understand that lesson best of all.